reality is again, this is used in every single sector of the global economy. When you are going into a fight, do you want a little baby Swiss Army knife, little itty bitty Swiss Army knife to go into battle with? Or do you want a flippin' bazooka? So you get your ammo in first to make sure that, if it crashed right now, you're stacking, you haven't been accumulating food. I have been in these markets on some level seriously since I was 10 years old. And it started with my Uncle Al, who was a major antique dealer. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about prior to 1971. And he really was the one that taught me how tangible assets move from undervaluation to fair valuation to overvaluation to fair valuation and under. So it's like a constant movement. And as long as they're good tangibles, they don't go away. You just have to pay attention to how everything is moving. And one day my parents and I were at his house and he goes, "Come on, I want to show you something." And he took us in a back bedroom where he had 2 tall floor safes. And he opened the doors and he said, "If anything should happen to me, Aunt Bertie will be well taken care of for the rest of her life based on what's in these safes." So I turned around to look, and what I saw, I definitely did not understand the significance of it at the time. I was only 10. But what I saw were 2 tall floor safes that you could not fit even one more $20 gold Liberty in there. It was stacked like crazy. So he'd go in, totally. He would go into these wealthy homes and they would be like, "Oh, I have these gold coins, blah." He probably paid $35, maybe $50 a coin or what have you. But knowing what I know now, I would guess that he had at least 3,000 ounces between those 2 safes. I'd say 3 monster boxes in each safe, probably more, but that would be like a minimum.
That's incredible. And we're talking gold, right?
Oh, yes, we are talking gold. And
Wow.
You couldn't fit one more in. And if you remember, it was illegal to own more than 5 ounces of gold in any other form than the way he held them. And that has influenced me. I didn't even realize it till one day I was writing and I said, if you were alive like I was in 1971, and then so many, but that particular lesson from my uncle came, flooding in. I was there in 1971. I remember the energy. I remember the Vietnam War. I remember the issues that we had with oil and civil rights and all of these patterns that when you look back on history are exactly the same every single time there is a currency shift. I was a banker. I started banking when I was 15, studied business finance and stayed in banking. And then until 1986, then I became a stockbroker at Shearson. And that's when I started studying currencies and currency life cycles, because I happened to stumble across what's called non-dollar denominated bonds, which were simply bonds that are issued in different currencies. But if I was going to sell them to clients, then I needed to understand currencies and how currency worked. And it was in that capacity that I came across currency life cycles, because there are repeatable patterns. If you can learn to see these patterns and see when patterns shift, then quite honestly, you can easily determine where we are in this currency's life cycle. I mean, there are lots of currencies that simply do not exist anymore, right? Fiat currencies, government-based currencies, and frankly, ours is going the same way of the dodo bird.
I think it is as well. Now, going back to 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off of the gold standard, what was it like? What were people saying?
Well, there was a lot of inflation. The stock markets imploded about 45%. They dropped pretty significantly. The Vietnam War was going on, and you didn't trust anybody over 30, which... I'm 68. So, but, There was a revolution. There was a revolution that was going on, and it was a monetary revolution. It was a social revolution. It was an economic revolution. And what has the World Economic Forum said, but that we are resetting socially, economically, and financially. So what was happening back in the 70s is similar on many levels to what is happening right now. And can you feel the energy? Can people feel the difference in that? I mean, everybody's just kind of anxious. Like they know that something's wrong. They can't necessarily put their finger on it, but they're anxious about it. Have you noticed that? 100 gazillion%. I've been stacking. I mean, I've always had a certain amount, but I've been stacking seriously since 2002. But I've got my bug out location, so I've also executed the rest of that mantra. But it was the gold and the silver that I did first, because that can protect everything else and enable you in any circumstances to more likely be able to buy whatever it is that you need. But when 2008 hit, 100 bazillion%, I knew that the system that we knew died. I absolutely knew it. I was living in a little 2-bedroom condo getting ready to retire, and I just wanted something simple. I could turn the key and off I could travel, do whatever I wanted. And then 2008 happened. And I thought, holy crap. And I knew that the single biggest issue for most people during these transitions and these periods of time was food. So I was not a gardener. I mean, I might help my sister every now and again, but that was really not my thing, except that I wanted to make sure that I could feed my family, my children, my siblings, etc. So I bought this property, and I bought it in dead central Phoenix. I am in dead central Phoenix because I knew that my children wouldn't go anywhere. And so I thought, well, this is where I'll make my last stand. And my neighbors were my neighbors were not happy with me for a while because I started digging up the lawn and, planting trees and trying to figure out how to become a gardener, how to become a farmer, how to feed my family. But 2008 was when the system died. So people you're right, they think, well, I'm going to know like 1 second before, and then I'm going to have the time to be prepared. I have been doing the food, water, every energy, all of the rest of that since 2010. And I feel like I am more ready than probably anybody else that I know, but I could be even more ready than that. So while I needed to just properly diversify my portfolio, I needed physical gold and physical silver. But additionally, what I know, because I've studied this since 1987, is that when confidence is lost, we get very, very local, right, for a while before things will then open up again. And so if you even look at Venezuela or in Europe when they were having the debt crisis, people survived by their gold and silver jewelry or their gold and silver coins by using that as barter. Because the thing and of course, so few people talk about it, but the reality is again, this is used in every single sector of the global economy. When you are going into a fight, do you want a little baby Swiss Army knife, little itty bitty Swiss Army knife to go into battle with? Or do you want a flippin' bazooka? So you get your ammo in first to make sure that, if it crashed right now, you're stacking, you haven't been accumulating food, but I guarantee you, you cannot live without food, you cannot live without water. You're gonna have limitations, and you're gonna have to be able to barter. Well, people recognize gold and silver because it's in our DNA. Look at our language. Look at the cryptocurrencies. How do they always depict those coins? Gold or silver, either one of those. Why? Because it's in our DNA to understand that people know that this is money. It's been money for 6,000 years. That's why the central banks are buying it, because they know it too. They know this isn't real money. They know this is garbage and that they're destroying it. This is real money. So I built that foundation first, but remember too, I didn't realize until 2008 that the system died. I did not think that I would see this in my lifetime. Boy, was I wrong. So yeah, that's why the metals first, because I knew that we were coming to the end. You could see it technically, it was there. And I'm a technician. So when I saw that, I went, okay, time to really start accumulating in earnest. But I really thought it would take a whole lot longer than it's taking. So no, I'll see the end of it.